Good evening from New York. I am Selwyn Collins, your host of CWS Journeys. Welcome. Those of you who are joining us for the first time, I'm always very happy to welcome you. CWS Journeys is about having conversations with people about their journeys and how they use their gifts and talents to help others. I am going to bring on my guest this evening. Um, there she is on the other side of the screen. Her name is Keisha Gay Anderson. Keisha, good evening and welcome to CWS Journeys.
Happy to be here.
I am glad to have you here. Keisha Gayle Anderson is a Jamaican-born poet and creative writer living in Brooklyn, New York. She's the author of the poetry collection Gathering Waters. I think it's Jamai publishing December 2014. Her writing has been published in a number of national literary journals, literary magazines, and anthologies, including Writing the Caribbean, Renaissance Noir, the Killen's Review of Art and Letters, Mosaic Literary Magazine, African Voices Magazine, Street Notes, Cross Cultural Poetics, Caribbean in Transit Arts Journal, and others. She's a past participant of the WONA Voices and Callaloo Creative Writing Workshops and was named a fellow by the North Country Institute for Writers of Color. I just want to get it. Keisha, beyond the accomplishments and the accolades, how would you describe this person you've come to know as Keisha Gayle Anderson?
Oh boy. I am a storyteller. I like telling stories. It's like building something, constructing something. And I mean, I look at life, in a lot of ways like a sandbox. We're here, we have talents, we have ideas, and we try to build things. And so whether it be poetry, essays, fiction, screenwriting, whatever, I like the power of a narrative to affect people and hit them at the deepest level, because that's how we really get to know each other. When you hear good music and you're in a show and you hear good music and it hits you at that heart level, then things can change in you. Things can be uncovered inside of you. And writing has the power to do that. I mean, good writing.
Yeah.
And it's a craft like anything else, like, carving furniture or, gymnastics. It's like anything else. It's just something you develop.
Have you ever written a piece, perhaps a sentence, and it came from you, but after you wrote it, it just spoke to you, that evokes marvel. Has that ever happened to you?
Meaning like, saying, where did this come from?
Yes, exactly.
I think all writers will tell you to experience that. Absolutely. I mean, I think writing is listening. I think really it is listening, especially with poetry. Poetry is the first form that I ever really tried my hand at, and it's my first love, I guess.
When did this happen for you?
I'm about 7 or 8, and I have, 2 children. My daughter's 7, my son is 11, and I see everything's just firing in their brains. So I remember just, they're creating things all the time, and I don't stop them. Whatever they,
So how did motherhood impact your writing?
You know what? That's a question people ask, and then they expect like this really profound answer. But I would say that my answer is very boring. It's that I had to structure myself more so that I would have time as myself, not as someone's mother. Like say, okay, this is my time now. Obviously, I love my children; they inspire me and everything. But I don't really, I don't write about them too much. Not yet. Anyway, yeah.
You give us a glimpse of your life growing up at the ages of 9 and 15.
A glimpse of
your life growing up. What was it like growing up at ages 9 and then take us to 15?
Oh boy. 9 was awkward. I was very tall. I'm almost 6 feet tall, and I've been this height since I was about 11. So at 9 already, I was like huge, right? Somewhat shy, but I was already writing poetry. I wrote a lot of poetry. My dad liked to write, and so I think that inspired me, and my mom could draw, without any tutoring. So these aren't things that they pursued necessarily, they're just things they knew how to do. So I would write a lot in my diary, and I found my old diary the other day from that age, and I read it, some of it to my children, and the proclamation was that I was very dramatic. My children, oh my God, you were so dramatic. 15 now, let me see. It's like high school, starting high school. I don't know. I mean, I guess the common thread with me is that the way I process things was through writing them down, either journaling or just coming up with stories. So I think I was, I don't know, 15. I don't know. You need to, like,
Okay. So when you started writing poetry, what was the trigger? What made you decide you want to write poetry or make words rhyme? Or not that that's not the only form of poetry, but at that age, what made you decide you want to do that?
I think I always felt things very deeply. Was told more than once, "You're so sensitive," and I think maybe being self-conscious of that, I would go and write things other than, showing my feelings per se, right? And I think I was in school, that's what struck a chord with me, was poetry and literature, like from a very early age. Those things like engaged me. I liked the use of language. I liked imagery. I liked that you could say things in this way, in this structure. And my first poetry was rhyming because, you just emulate like Victorian poetry. And then I started to develop my own voice. I guess some of the themes, I think magic and mysticism have always played a part in my imagination. And I think this plays back into our culture in terms of like the Ducky stories. And
Yes.
my parents always tell me stories. And then, my dad grew up in the country. So lots of stories, and that just, I think I left Jamaica so young that I didn't experience growing up there. I would visit, but that's different, right? So I think that longing kind of fueled my imagination, that longing to experience these things my dad was talking about, like walking down a road in the country at night and there's absolutely no light, and then somebody in the community playing a trick. Like, people do that. And I thought, oh, that's, I grew up in New York City, like, it's never really dark.
Was it difficult to shift from the whole Victorian, you must rhyme, Jack is black or whatever? Was it difficult to shift from that into, your own voice?
Not at all, because, fortunate for me, I grew up during the birth of hip hop, and I lived in that area of Queens where a lot of these guys were from, in the 80s, and that was all around us. So that was another way. That was other poetry, and naturally that's just what we were into. And reggae, dancehall. I remember my mother's sister came up to stay with us, and I must have been about 12, and she was like 21, and she brought all her dancehall records. And I was like, oh, what's this? And it just opened my world,
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Your peers, you mentioned dad, writer, mom, artist. Any words of wisdom that still resonate with you today?
Oh, they say so many things.
That's a good one.
Axioms, yeah.
Yes.
Well, my mother's very practical, so she say, wherever I mug, I brook. It's like your weak point that's going to be your undoing. So hey, that's just life, So just be aware of that, Jamaican people have said, "Don't know for frightened." It's like that. Those come up. I mean, there's so many. You're like any typical kid, and although people have said this, what do you know about Jamaica?
Yeah.
It's like you grow up in New York around nothing but Caribbean people because New York is segregated, and you don't know that growing up, but it is. Every single person around me was from an island. That's who I grew up around.
You have been Caribbean influenced.
Yeah, I mean, you don't have to. And then I visited Jamaica a lot. My grandmother would go see family. I still have a lot of family there, but that's just who we were around. And now analyzing it now in terms of the social context, I realized we didn't mix with anybody. We were just in this enclave, other than school. In school, you were the minority, you know. But
I'm curious. You're a mother. You're a strong woman. Advocate a lot for women's life. Your mom was an artist, a creative person. You say very practical. You mentioned grandma. These women, your mother, your grandmother, and I don't know who else, but what type of impact they have had in your life when you were a child growing up?
Making me see the world for what it is. Because Black women don't have time to play around. You know, I mean, you know, like any other immigrant, you know, my mother and my parents did jobs they probably, you know, obviously would never have done had they stayed in Jamaica. Just, you know, they got back on their feet, but at first, you know, I would go with them some of these places, and it's just like, this is the world. This is, you know, there's no Santa, I'm buying your gifts. And the women especially, it's like I had to be independent very early. I mean, I was coming home and staying by myself since I was 9, you know, latchkey. And it's just like, now in hindsight, I'm mortified. You know, I'm like, my kids could stay home alone, but they didn't really have a choice. You know?
You were in a group of your cousins or women, young women, sitting at the feet of the elders, sitting at the feet of your mother, your grandmother, your aunts. What kind of story do you think they might be telling the group here?
Well, it's going to be something funny. There's going to be some gossip. It's going to be involving some kind of, you know, I can't even tell you. Some gossip probably to do with someone's spouse. It's going to be some gossip.
Something juicy.
Something real juicy.
What comes to mind when you think of Jamaica?
Jamaica. What comes to mind? So many things. I'm just getting overwhelmed.
Well, let me see if I can take you down.
Yeah, I mean,
what do you love about Jamaica, and how has it impacted you?
Okay, I would say what I really love is a sense of wholeness, of being a whole person. And you only can see that with respect to being an American and not feeling seen, not feeling respected. There's, you know, racial elements. It's just that growing up here and in a school system, you know, I went to Catholic schools. I wasn't necessarily mistreated at all. It's just that people didn't see you. You know, it's like you're so highly visible, you're invisible. You know what I mean? So it's like, or there's this urge to put you in this box or that box, you know, to classify what kind of minority you are.
Did you notice that box then, or you noticed it on reflection?
I noticed it then. How could I not? Because, you know, for me, it was just very interesting. Also because of my appearance. I mean, I didn't have dreadlocks back then. Okay. So I, you know, experienced a lot of times where those, you know, folks trying to put me into this box, like, well, you're not like them. You look different. Are you mixed? Are you, you know, don't hang around with them, you know, and them is my friends, and them are from my community, and I know them and you don't know them. So what are you trying to, you know, or you look this way, you look just enough this way, why don't you try to pursue this, you know? And I said, this is just insane. I'm not a pedigree puppy, like, you know, like I'm a person and I want to do what I want to do, you know, and it pissed me off, you know. It pissed me off, and then my mom said, why are you into this black business, all this black, you know, you're too into this thing. And I said, how can I not be into it, because this is all I experience all day long from everybody around me, and that is the American experience for people of color. It's constantly pointed out to you, you know, that you're non-white. And in Jamaica, I could say that Jamaica has its own issues, right, with colorism, and we all know that, you know. But I would say, for the most part, just a sense of being a whole person and walking around with your head up, no matter who you are. That's what I think of when I think of Jamaica.
You I'll create a hypothetical. Here you are in your favorite place to relax, and you have a favorite book, your favorite drink, favorite music,
Okay.
right? Now, where would this place be? What would you be reading? What would you be drinking? And what music would you be listening to?
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Let's see. Well, I'm going to be on a beach, and I know that's cliche, but I got to be near the water, beach
Okay.
and water, whatever. I don't drink alcohol, so anything, maybe it's
Coconut water?
yeah, coconut water. There you go, something like that. And a book. When you first said that, I thought Wild Sea by Octavia Butler. I love that book. Anything by Gail Jones. There are women writers who I love, who defy the traditional structures and narratives, and they do their own thing. And I think that's so important. It's like jazz,
Okay. Let's just pause there for a
Okay.
second. Let's take some from there, especially for the young people who might be listening, young writers. They defy the status quo, the traditional structure, and do their own thing. Give me an example.
I would say Gail Jones is an example. I don't know if you're familiar with her work, but she's a fantastic author. She wrote Mosquito, The Healing, some other books, but she writes in African American vernacular English for the entire book, and she doesn't use quotation marks. And yet somehow in this 300-page book, you know exactly who's talking. You know the irony, you know the sarcasm, you know the main character's voice, and you know the main character, and you know the protagonist is highly
She
intelligent.
doesn't use quotation mark.
No.
We must give this sister lots of credit. We must. Because it has to take tremendous courage
And
and
skills
skill.
to maintain, yes, and her work is engaging. I know that, friends of mine who are English professors, that they say, well, it's hard to teach her because, she doesn't fit in a classroom. It may be hard to teach. It's an extra layer with the vernacular English. But I'm very interested in language and interested in the diaspora Englishes and other languages, because we speak, whether you're Dominican, Haitian, or Jamaican, we say things in the same way. And that's because we come from one place.
Yes.
And that's where the syntax comes from. And that is also expressed in African American vernacular English, the same. I mean, why are we surprised by this? We shouldn't be. Slavery moved us all over the place. And so these things are constant. And I feel that storytelling, there's circular narratives. This is very non-Western, to tell things in a circular narrative. And instead of this linear, you can play with the timeline. You can jump up, you can do what you want, but you got to be skillful to do that.
Not with a practicing, right? You have to play, come around, then go back.
But that's how we tell stories. That's how we in our community also tell stories. Like, okay, I'm going to tell about this man who had a donkey and he went down into Canefield. But first, last week, we have to start there. And then eventually you get to the story and you follow the story. You're not confused, right?
Because you understand it's within you. It's in your DNA.
The stream of consciousness. You get it.
But here you
We're
are.
not stupid.
Journalist, right?
Yeah.
Screenwriter, associate producer. What was your early years like as associate producer at CWS?
Okay, I went to Syracuse University. I went to the Newhouse School, very strong journalism program, and I had an interest in writing, and poetry always seemed like a hobby, and I just felt like at that age, I'm like, I can't possibly do that. I need to get a job, I need to have a career. And I went into journalism, and I loved it. I mean, don't get me wrong, I have many interests. I don't think you have to be pigeonholed to one thing. So I really enjoyed that time. As a journalist, I worked first for Japanese television, which was interesting. The Japanese TV production company in New York, producing shows for Japan. I was one of the only Americans there. That was a fascinating experience. I went on to CBS, and I worked my way up from an entry-level, broadcast associate, all the way up to field producer, mostly on documentaries. And, as I worked for PBS, I worked for Now with Bill Moyers when that was on. And so I always followed the love of for me, it wasn't just about working in TV. It's like, what am I working on? I had to work on something that I enjoyed working on, certain documentaries. That's what I wanted to be on. I didn't just go on a reality show. I could have made a lot of money being a producer in reality TV. And I had the credentials to do it. I wasn't interested in that.
What did you learn about yourself throughout through this journey?
Well, it's very interesting because through my job at CBS, I got to travel the country, and as a field producer, you interview people. You're not on camera, you're interviewing people. I got to interface with people I would never in a million years meet. I interviewed Robert McNamara, former Secretary of State. I wouldn't be in a room with him ever for any other reason than work. And I learned so much from all of those interactions. And what I learned about myself is that I wasn't very different from any of those people. And so we have this gulf. We think we cannot bridge this gulf between us and these people we see as successful. And they're just people. They're smart, you know, and some of them are lucky, and some of them have power and money behind them, and some of them don't. We interviewed Greg Louganis, a sweet, sweet person, the Olympic swimmer. Very personable. I mean, you know, all these people I met, I got to appreciate them and respect their stories. And I got like a condensed education in the different paths people could take to get what they wanted. And that was one of the reasons I went into that field, because I wanted to know that. I studied, you know, and when you write too, you got to study human nature. I wanted to understand how people got where they went and why they went to those places. Like why, what, you know, human psychology is like, and a writer has to understand that to make real characters. And all the while I was doing that job, I enjoyed it, it was fun, but I feel like it helped me to understand how I would write, you know, when the time came to write my story, which is not about any of those people, but, you know, to really understand that we're all different, but we're not that different.
So would you say all of this prepared you for what you currently do?
Well, what I currently do, you know, is I work in higher education, communications, and marketing. That's my job. And it's basically the same kind of skills I used as a journalist, because I'm producing content, I'm writing, I'm doing all that stuff, and all of that's fine. But my long-term vision and my commitment is really, you know, as a writer. And it's not a secret, everybody knows that. Everybody on my job knows that, you know. That's what I do, and that's a lifelong thing. That's not like a gig. That's just like something you cultivate for your whole life if you really love it. So all of those things, every single thing contributes something to your skill set. You know.
Have you ever been drawn to a career that involved creative writing?
Yeah, I mean, I've tried a lot of different things. Let me see. You know, definitely a lot of my time in television, you know, didn't involve writing directly. And screenwriting is completely different from literary fiction, completely different. And it's a very beautiful form also. You can express things differently. And I have written for some television programming, and for a comedy sitcom, a pilot that a member of my writing group produced. We sat around, we tried. It was fun, you know. You got to try things.
What is it about writing that appeals to you?
Who said all the world's a stage? Was that Shakespeare? I mean, if I got that wrong, that would be crazy. But everybody's playing a role, and what you don't see is the interior dialogue that is happening, right? And I think with writing, you get to play around with that. You see, well, what motivates people? I think it's part philosophy, part psychology, examining why because it's not what we're doing. People are all doing the same things. You get up, you're here, you become aware of yourself, and you realize you're here and you're with other people, and everybody's doing the same things. But why are you here? Why are you here? You know, nobody examines that, not really deeply. So why do you do the things you do? Why? I want to know why. Let me tell you who's so skillful. I love that book, Lolita, because it is so skillful. It's like you actually develop empathy for a protagonist who's a pedophile, and that's a hard one.
That's hard.
For someone with children, like, you know, this writer took you there. And you were like, oh, you know, that's skillful.
If you found yourself amidst a cast of characters, how do you see yourself sometimes as a stagehand, not interfering but observing from the wings, or do you see yourself within or among them, directing and positioning? What role do you see yourself?
Oh, I'm the boss.
You're the boss.
Always. Period.
What do you miss most of those early years at CBS and PBS?
Oh, yeah, I mean, I guess you do. I am restless for new stimuli, new adventures, and I think that satisfied that part of me. I was always learning something new, always meeting new people, always traveling. You know, I miss that. But, you know, having children changes things. And so you can't just be on a plane and go do whatever you got to do. And, you know, you have to you got to grow up, and unless you're independently wealthy, you have to make some different choices.
One last question before we go on a break on that particular time. What was most challenging about being an associate producer on now with Bill Myers?
Oh, you know, this is just a journalist I have so much respect for. The work he does and the person he is. Such a great human being. And I just wanted to bring my best. And, you know, that was it. I just felt like the stakes were really high to do really, really good work, you know, real journalism. And so when you're doing real journalism, you know, you have to get that story, and you have to get people to talk to you. And whatever you got to do, you have to do it. You know, you have to make sure the information is accurate. You got to. So if people are going there for quality, for the truth, for honesty, and you have to make sure you did your due diligence and you got the accurate information. And so I learned a lot. You know, I definitely learned a lot.
Let's take a break.